Hello everybody, my name is Whitney Russell and I am a teacher from the Grossmont Union High School District, and I'm here today to talk to you about the linked learning approach. But before we jump into linked learning, it's very helpful to look back at the history of vocational education. Around the turn of the century, the Department of Education called together the Committee of 10 to standardize education. Before that time, colleges and universities had been complaining that their students came to them with a variety of knowledge. It was all over the place. There was no unity, no cohesion on what content they were receiving. So around this time period, this Committee of 10 standardized what was expected through high school education, and they developed what are known as Carnegie Units. These Carnegie Units were based on how much time a student spent in each class. And this was great for some students, but really only about 10% of the population, because that was the percent that was planning on going to college. The other 90% of students were typically going into industry. So students often dropped out of school by the age of 14 because they had no intention of going on to college. So in 1917, after many years of back and forth, the federal government passed what is known as the Smith-Hughes Act, which gave money to vocational education. And this remained the main source of funding for many, many years. The problem with vocational education at this time was that it was really a way of tracking students. Students were either put in onto the college track or onto the vocational track. And unfortunately, most of the students that were put on the vocational track were, it was very class-based, often students of color, students that just weren't seen as college material. So with the 21st century lens, we see that this is a major issue. And so by the 1980s, yes, it took that long for things to be changed. By the 1980s, Congress passed what is known as the Carl D. Perkins Vocational Education Act. And this changed what vocational education looked like. By the early 90s, with Perkins 2, vocational education became integrated with the more academic side of education, and we see the birth of what we now know as career and technical education. And that has been really the focus in schools as far as technical education goes since the 1990s. In recent years, the linked learning approach has come onto the scene. Linked learning is focused on transforming high schools and preparing students for both college and career. So what exactly is linked learning? Linked learning is based on four main components. The first one, rigorous academics. Second one is high quality career and technical education. The third is work-based learning. And the fourth is comprehensive support services. Now, if we remember back to what vocational education was like from 1917 up until the 1980s, we know that academics and then the career and technical side were split and students were tracked. Linked learning brings those together as well as work-based learning. Students have partnerships, or schools have partnerships with industry leaders, with community leaders, with business owners, and they are able to get real-world work-based learning opportunities. They are also given very extensive and comprehensive support services as they go through those programs. So some of the guiding principles of linked learning. The first is that linked learning prepares students to succeed in college, career, and life. Number two is that linked learning prepares high school students for a full range of post-graduation opportunities. No longer are they tracked. You're either going to college or you're going to a specific industry. They are given access to several different areas of study, whether it be academics, whether it be technical education, and then they have a choice of what they're going to pursue after high school. Number three, linked learning connects academics to real-world applications. As I said in the previous slide, students are able to work. They're able to work with people in the field that they are interested in going into. Number four, Linked learning improves student engagement, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. Number 5, linked learning is an approach, not a program. So there is not a one-size-fits-all program that you'll see implemented in every school. It is really an approach, and different schools approach it in a different way. And linked learning is for all students. Every student can benefit from a linked learning approach. So let's talk about student engagement. Another aspect of linked learning is what is known as the 3 R's. The 3 R's ask for rigor. There's a big fear that if students are focusing on just career and technical education, that it leaves out the rigorous side of academics, and that is just not the case with linked learning. There is a major focus on rigor in their education. Also, that idea of relevance. What they are learning needs to be relevant in the real world that they will be entering into. And then relationships. Students form very close and constructive relationships with their educators and with the business owners and industry leaders that they are connected with out in the real world. As we know, linked learning works. The data shows this over and over and over again, and this infographic is a great way to look at the successes of linked learning. First, linked learning students earn more credits and take more college prep classes in high school than compared to their traditional high school counterparts. Linked learning students are less likely to drop out. Linked learning students are more likely to graduate, and linked learning students are more likely to be ready for English language arts in the college setting. Linked learning also helps improve equity in schools. On average, Latino students in certified pathways were less likely to drop out and more likely to graduate and to have accumulated more credits. English language learners in linked learning pathways they completed one more college prep requirement than students in traditional high schools. African American students also earn more credits and are more likely to enroll in a 4-year college. And English language learners in certified linked learning pathways earn more credits than their counterparts in traditional high schools. So why do we need linked learning in the Grossmont Union High School District? As you all know, the Grossmont Union High School District provides opportunities for CTE classes in all of their schools, but unfortunately not all of them have linked learning pathways. You only see linked learning pathways in a handful of schools in the Grossmont Union High School District. But as we looked at the data, we see that linked learning is good for all students. So we know that this needs to change. We need to offer linked learning pathways at all of our schools across the entire district so that every student has access to the linked learning approach, so that every student is college and career ready, so that every student can meet the goals that they have set for themselves. Thank you for listening. I hope that this was enlightening and helps you see why the linked learning approach is so necessary.